Christmas at my parents' house had always been loud, crowded, and a little chaotic. But that year, the tension sat thicker than the smell of pine and cinnamon candles. My daughter Lily is 12. She has a neurological condition that doesn't always show on the outside. Some days she can stand with support. Other days, like that one, her legs simply don't cooperate. The wheelchair isn't a prop. It's her independence. My sister Marlene never believed it. She'd made comments before, passive-aggressive little jabs wrapped in fake concern. Kids bounce back fast, she'd say. Or, doctors love diagnosing things these days. I'd swallowed every word for the sake of peace. But that night, peace shattered. We were halfway through dinner when Lily's hands started trembling, a sign she was getting fatigued. I wheeled her a little back from the table so she could stretch her legs out. That's when Marlene stood up. She didn't raise her voice at first. She leaned across the table, eyes sharp and pointed straight at my child. We all know she's faking. The room froze. Lily's face went pale. Her fork clattered against her plate. Before I could react, Marlene's grown son, 20 years old and built like a linebacker, stepped behind Lily's chair. He laughed, actually laughed, and yanked it backward. "Just get up and walk," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The wheels scraped hard against the hardwood floor. Lily gasped as her body lurched forward. Her hands scrambled for the armrests that were no longer there. For a split second, I saw pure terror in her eyes. I moved fast, but not fast enough to stop the damage. Lily collapsed sideways, hitting the floor. The sound of her head striking wood echoed through the dining room like a gunshot. And still Marlene scoffed. "Oh, please. Look at her. She's fine." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I knelt beside my daughter, checked her pupils the way her neurologist had taught me, and felt the tremor running violently through her legs. She wasn't just scared. She was seizing. That's when I pulled out my phone. One call. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I simply said, calm and clear, "Yes, this is an emergency. My disabled daughter has been assaulted and is having a seizure. We need paramedics and police." Marlene rolled her eyes at first. Then Lily's body stiffened completely. The room shifted. 5 minutes later, the distant wail of sirens cut through the Christmas music still playing from the living room speaker. And suddenly, nobody was laughing anymore. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the awkward silence like a blade. Christmas music still hummed in the background. Silent Night, playing softly. Cruelly ironic. Lily's body jerked again, her small frame rigid against the hardwood floor. I slid a folded sweater beneath her head and kept my voice steady, counting her breaths the way her neurologist had trained me. "Stay with me, baby. Mommy's right here." Across the room, Marlene's confidence began to crack. "Oh my God. Is she actually?" she muttered, her voice no longer sharp but thin. Her son stepped back, hands raised like he'd just realized he touched something radioactive. "I didn't push her that hard," he said quickly. "She just fell." The front door burst open before anyone could respond. 2 paramedics rushed in, followed by a police officer. The flashing red and blue lights spilled across the walls, washing over the Christmas tree and turning the ornaments into blinking warnings. "What happened?" one paramedic asked, already kneeling beside Lily. "She was pulled from her wheelchair," I said evenly. "She hit her head. She has a documented neurological disorder. She's seizing." The officer's gaze shifted immediately to the overturned wheelchair a few feet away. "Who pulled it?" he asked. Silence. The kind that suffocates. Marlene tried to speak first. "It was just a joke, ma'am," the officer interrupted firmly. "This isn't funny." Lily let out a soft, broken sound as the paramedic stabilized her head and began checking vitals. One of them glanced at me. Has she had seizures triggered by trauma before? Yes, I answered. Sudden impact, stress. The officer took a slow step toward Marlene's son. Sir, did you remove the wheelchair? His bravado had evaporated. I didn't think she was really sick. She looks normal. The officer's jaw tightened. Disability doesn't have a look. Every word landed heavy in the room. As they lifted Lily carefully onto the stretcher, her eyes fluttered open for a moment. She looked at me, confused, scared, then closed them again. I kissed her forehead. I'm right behind you. The paramedics wheeled her out, the stretcher replacing the chair that had been so carelessly ripped away. The officer turned back to the family. I'm going to need statements from everyone in this room. Marlene's face had gone chalk white. 5 minutes ago, she'd been laughing. Now she was staring at flashing police lights reflecting in her holiday decorations, and realizing this wasn't going away. The house that had once felt warm and crowded now felt like a crime scene. Red and blue lights still flickered against the windows as neighbors peeked through curtains. Inside, no one touched the food. No one spoke unless the officer addressed them directly. I gave my statement first. I explained Lily's diagnosis. I showed them the medical app on my phone with her neurologist's notes. I described exactly what happened. The pointing, the accusation, the laughter, the wheelchair being yanked away. I didn't raise my voice once. Across the room, Marlene's son sat stiffly on the couch, staring at the floor like a scolded child instead of a grown man. It was a joke, he repeated weakly when it was his turn. I thought she was pretending. The officer didn't look impressed. You forcibly removed a mobility device from a minor. That resulted in bodily injury and a medical emergency. Marlene finally snapped. Are we seriously doing this? She's family. The officer met her glare evenly. Family doesn't make you exempt from assault. That word, assault, hung in the air like smoke. My father tried to intervene. Can't we settle this privately? It's Christmas. I turned to him calmly. It was Christmas when your grandson laughed while my daughter hit the floor. Silence again. The paramedic who had stayed behind approached me quietly. She's stable for now, he said. They're taking her to County General for observation. Relief and rage battled inside my chest. Stable. Thank God. But this should never have happened. The officer returned to me with a clipboard. Ma'am, do you wish to press charges? The entire room seemed to lean toward me. Marlene's eyes burned into mine. You wouldn't, she whispered. You'd destroy this family. I thought about Lily's small body trembling on the floor. About her terrified eyes. About the years of whispered accusations that I had tolerated to keep peace. No, I said quietly. Marlene's shoulders sagged in relief. I won't destroy this family, I continued. You already did. Then I looked back at the officer. Yes, I'm pressing charges. Marlene gasped. Her son started protesting immediately, his voice cracking as reality set in. You can't be serious. But I was. For 12 years, my daughter had fought a body that sometimes betrayed her. She had endured tests, therapy, and strangers staring in public. What she would not endure, not from anyone, was humiliation and violence disguised as doubt. As the officer began explaining next steps, the flashing lights outside dimmed. Christmas dinner sat cold on the table. And for the first time since Lily was diagnosed, I didn't feel guilty for choosing her over keeping the peace. County General's was bright, sterile, and painfully quiet compared to the chaos we'd left behind. Lily lay in the hospital, bed with wires attached to her chest, and a soft brace supporting her neck. The seizure had stopped, but the doctors wanted to monitor her overnight for a concussion. I sat beside her, holding her hand, listening to the steady rhythm of the heart monitor. When she finally woke fully, her voice was small. Mom, did I do something wrong? That question broke something inside me. No, baby, I whispered. brushing hair from her forehead. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Tears pooled in her eyes. They think I'm lying. I swallowed hard. Some people don't understand what they can't see. That's their weakness. Not yours. The next few weeks moved fast. Police reports, follow-up appointments, calls from extended family members who suddenly had very strong opinions. Some begged me to reconsider pressing charges. Others quietly admitted they'd always suspected. Marlene's son was too rough. What none of them could deny was the medical report. Documented seizure triggered by head trauma. Bruising consistent with a fall caused by forceful displacement of her mobility device. There was no grey area. Marlene called me once. I let it go to voicemail. Her message wasn't an apology. It was anger wrapped in fear. You're ruining his future over a misunderstanding. No. He ruined his future the moment he decided. My daughter's disability was entertainment. In the end, the legal outcome wasn't dramatic. Because he had no prior record and because Lily recovered physically, the charge was reduced through a plea deal. Mandatory community service. A fine. Court-ordered disability awareness training. Probation. But the real consequence wasn't on paper. It was the silence. No more holiday invitations. No more forced Sunday dinners. The family split quietly down the middle, and for once, I didn't chase reconciliation. Peace built on swallowing cruelty isn't peace. It's permission. Spring came slowly that year. Lily returned to school. She rolled through the hallways with her usual bright backpack and stubborn smile. Some days she used crutches. Some days the chair. Always her choice. Always her strength. One afternoon, months later, she looked up at me while we were planting flowers in the yard. "Mom," she asked, "if it happens again, will you still believe me?" I knelt beside her, meeting her eyes so there was no room for doubt. Every time. In every room. Against anyone. Because that was the lesson Christmas had carved into both of us. 5 minutes of Sirens didn't just silence a house full of laughter. They drew a line. And anyone who thinks a child is faking pain for attention. They learn very quickly what happens when a mother stops staying quiet.